I want to start today with a feeling. A feeling I think probably everyone listening has had at some point, maybe even, I don't know, this week.
Hmm.
You know that sensation when you're looking at your calendar or your bank account or maybe just the news, and you get this sudden physical drop in your stomach.
Oh, yeah. That pit in the stomach feeling.
It's not just stress, though. It's something deeper. It's the feeling that the center isn't holding,
Yeah.
you know, like the glue that keeps your life or maybe the whole world together is just drying up and flaking away.
That is a very visceral way to put it. It's that sense of structural failure.
Exactly. It's structural. It's not just I had a bad day. It's I think I am falling apart. Maybe it's a burnout where you literally cannot look at another email
Yeah.
without wanting to just scream. Or maybe it's a breakup where you feel like you've been physically ripped in half. Or, maybe it's just this creeping existential dread that things are fragmenting.
Yeah.
And usually when I feel that, my immediate reaction is just panic. I think, okay, I am broken. I need to fix this. I need to get back to how I was before this started.
Which is the most natural human reaction in the world. I mean, we are biologically wired for cohesion. We want safety. We want unity. So when fragmentation hits, whether it's psychological, emotional, society, we treat it like a pathology.
A disease.
Yes. We treat it like a glitch in the system that needs to be patched immediately.
Right. We just want to hit treat LZ. Just undo, undo, undo.
But that is exactly the assumption that we are going to challenge today. We've got a fascinating source material for this deep dive. It's a text titled The Spiral Return, Fragmentation, and the Quest for Unity. And the argument it makes is honestly a little destabilizing at first. It asks, what if falling apart isn't the end of the story? What if it's the engine of the story?
That is a huge shift. I mean, we're talking about moving from how do I fix this to, I don't know, what is this breaking trying to build?
Precisely. The core thesis here is that wholeness, that state of peace we're all chasing, it isn't about gluing the pieces back together so it looks like nothing ever happened. It's not about restoration.
So it's not kintsugi, the Japanese art of fixing pottery with gold, because that's about highlighting the break.
It's similar in spirit, but maybe even more radical. It's about building something entirely new because of the break. The source uses this idea of the difference between a pristine vase and a mosaic. The mosaic is made of broken pieces, but it creates an image that the original vase never could have.
I love that image.
Mhm.
But I also know that when you're the vase getting smashed, it does not feel like an art project. It feels like a total disaster.
Oh, it feels terrible. Absolutely. And the source doesn't shy away from that pain at all. But to help us navigate it, the text takes us on this incredibly ambitious, kind of cross-disciplinary journey. We are going to be looking at Egyptian mythology, specifically the brutal murder and dismemberment of a god.
Right.
We're going to look at Babylonian creation myths that are, frankly, the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, they really are.
And we're going to touch on 1920s literature with Hermann Hesse's novel Steppenwolf.
And this is the part I'm most excited about. We're going to use the tarot deck as a sort of a GPS for this whole journey.
The source uses the tarot, specifically the major arcana, as a map to chart the movement from what it calls innocent unity, where we start to conscious unity, which is where we're all trying to go.
So we have a lot of ground to cover. We've got gods, wolves, fortune-telling cards. It's a whole thing. But before we get into the specific stories, let's just stay with this problem of fragmentation for a minute. The source calls it a mythic constant. What does that actually mean? Because to me, it feels like a very modern problem. It feels like social media and the 24-hour news cycle are just fracturing our attention spans, our communities.
It certainly feels particularly acute right now, I agree. But the source argues that this is actually the oldest story in the book. If you look at the history of human mythology, this idea of dismemberment is, well, it's everywhere. It is ubiquitous. In almost every culture, you have stories of gods getting chopped up or primordial giants getting split in half to create the sky and the earth.
So we aren't the first people to feel like we're falling to pieces, not by a long shot.
Far from it. This is a fundamental part of the human experience. The source even argues that consciousness itself is a kind of fracture. To be aware of yourself is to be separate from the world. So we are always dealing with this gap, this split. But the mistake we make, and this is the crucial point the source makes, is that we ask the wrong question when the split happens.
Which is the how do I fix it question we started with. How do I go back?
Right. How do I return? We have this deep almost nostalgic longing for regression.
Right.
We want to go back to the womb. We want to go back to the Garden of Eden. We want to go back to who we were before the divorce or before the trauma. We want the time machine.
I feel that so deeply. I think everyone feels that. If I just go back 3 years before all this happened, everything would be fine.
Of course. But the source is very, very firm on this point. Regression is impossible. And even if it were possible, it would be undesirable. You cannot unbreak the egg. Innocence, once it's lost, is gone forever. You can't unknow a trauma. You can't unsee the crack in the foundation of your life.
Okay, so if we can't go back, what do we do?
The source suggests we just swap the question. Instead of how do I go back, we need to ask. Once wholeness is shattered, how is life to continue?
Wow. That is a much heavier question. I don't know, almost resigned, like giving up.
I don't think it's resignation. I think it's realism. It's about accepting the break as the new baseline, the new starting point. The goal isn't to erase the break. The goal is what the source calls unity without regression. And this brings us right to the title of the piece, The Spiral Return.
Can we visualize this for a second?
Yeah.
Because I usually think of progress as a straight line. You know, you start at A and you get to B. Or, if I'm feeling really cynical, a circle where I just keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
That's a great way to frame it. Think of a spiral staircase. If you walk up a spiral staircase and then you look straight down, you might be standing directly over the spot where you started. So in a two-dimensional sense, you've gone in a circle, you're back at point A.
Right.
But in a three-dimensional sense, you're higher up. You have gained elevation.
Okay, I see that. So you do return to the self, but it's a self that has climbed the stairs. It has a better view.
Exactly. You return to a state of unity, but you are changed. You differentiated. You're wiser. You have integrated the journey of the break. You aren't the innocent fool who started climbing. You're the experienced traveler who made it back around, but on a new level.
That makes a lot of sense conceptually, but how do we actually do that?
Yeah,
Because it's easy to say just spiral up, but when you're in the messy middle, when the pieces are all over the floor, it's really hard to know which way is up.
And that is precisely why we need these case studies. The source breaks down 3 different ways humanity has historically tried to handle fragmentation. 3 different models for what to do when things fall apart. And the first one takes us back to ancient Egypt.
To the story of Osiris. Now, I learned this in school, but reading the source material, I realized I missed about 90% of the gruesome details. It's a lot darker than the version I remember.
It is a story that gets sanitized quite a lot, but the horror is the point. The horror is the engine.
Okay, so set the scene for us. Who is Osiris? What does he represent?
Osiris is the king, but he's more than that. He is the civilizer. He's the one who teaches Egypt agriculture, law, religion. He is the golden boy, the beloved ruler. He represents established order, fertility, and goodness. But as always in these myths, there is a shadow.
And that shadow is his brother, Seth.
Exactly. And Seth isn't just some generic bad guy. He represents something very specific. Seth is the desert. He is sterility, chaos, foreign lands, storms, and violence. He is everything that threatens the fertile, ordered world of the Nile. And Seth is deeply, deeply jealous. So he devises a plan to get rid of Osiris. And it's not a fair fight. It's not a duel. It's a trick.
This is the part that always creeps me out. The banquet.
Yes. Seth holds this massive, lavish banquet. He invites 72 conspirators and, of course, his brother Osiris. And in the middle of the room, he displays this magnificent chest. A sarcophagus, really. It's made of cedar, inlaid with ivory and ebony and gold. A true masterpiece. And Seth announces a little game. He says, jokingly, whoever fits perfectly inside this chest can keep it.
It's literally a coffin, and they're treating it like a party game. The audacity is incredible.
It is. And of course, Seth has secretly measured Osiris's body perfectly while he was sleeping. So one by one, the guests try to get in. Too short, too tall, too wide. Finally, Osiris steps up. He's amused. He lies down in the box. And the moment he is inside,
Simple trap springs.
the conspirators slam the heavy lid down. They nail it shut. They pour molten lead over all the seams to seal it airtight. And Osiris suffocates in the dark. Then they take the chest and they throw it into the Nile.
That is just pure nightmare fuel. But that's not even the fragmentation part yet, is it? That's just the murder.
Correct. This is just the beginning. Isis, Osiris's wife and sister, is heartbroken. She eventually finds the chest, which has floated all the way to Byblos. She brings it back to Egypt, hiding it in the marshes, trying to figure out how to use her magic to revive him. But Seth, the god of chaos, finds it. And this time, he decides to make absolutely sure Osiris can never come back.
This is where it gets really brutal.
He takes the body out of the chest and he tears it into 14 pieces. He then scatters them all over the land of Egypt, up and down the Nile.
This is the ultimate falling apart. The
Right.
king, the very center of the world, is literally shredded and scattered across the map.
It is the total destruction of meaning. The center cannot hold because the center has been chopped up and thrown in the river. Now, the hero of the story shifts. It becomes Isis. She becomes the agent of memory. She travels the entire land, a solitary, grieving figure searching for these pieces. A leg here, a hand there. It is a grueling, sorrowful quest.
And she finds them. Well, she finds 13 of them. We can probably gloss over the missing piece for a family show, but let's just say she can't find everything. One part was eaten by a fish.
Right, a crucial detail. But she gathers what she can. She reassembles him. She wraps him in linen bandages. This is the mythological origin of the first mummy. And this is the pivot point of the entire myth. Isis uses her magic to revive him. But, and this is the detail the source really, really emphasizes, Osiris does not come back to life as he was. He doesn't go back to being king of Egypt. He doesn't pick up his crown and go back to the palace.
No, he doesn't stand up, shake off the bandages, and say, okay, back to work. He cannot return to the world of the living. He becomes the Lord of the dead, the king of the underworld.
Okay, I want to pause here. Because if I'm Osiris, or if I'm Isis, that feels like a failure. It really does. You did all this work, you gathered all the pieces, you did the magic spell, and he's still dead. He's just the king of ghosts now. That sounds like a really raw deal.
It absolutely feels like a failure if your goal is restoration, if you want the vase to be perfectly fixed. But the source argues this is actually a profound transformation. It calls this model sacred dismemberment. Think about the result of this so-called failure. Because Osiris becomes the Lord of the Dead, he creates a destination for every human soul. Before this myth, death in Egyptian belief was just the end. Chaos. Now, there is a king waiting for you. There is a judgment. There is a structure. There is hope for an afterlife.
So his brokenness, his permanent brokenness, created the entire infrastructure for everyone else's salvation. Exactly. The entire culture of ancient Egypt was built around his wound. The source uses a very specific, slightly academic term here that I want to break down because it's so powerful. It calls this apophatic logic.
Whoa, okay. Apophatic. That sounds like something I'd nod at in a dinner party while frantically Googling it under the table. What does that actually mean in plain English?
It comes from theology, from a way of talking about God. Usually, apophatic theology is the attempt to describe God by saying what God is not. For instance, God is not limited, God is not visible, God is not mortal. It's a way of finding presence through absence.
Okay, so how does it apply to a guy getting chopped up and becoming a mummy?
The logic here is that Osiris is most powerful precisely where he is no longer fully present. He isn't walking around Thebes making laws anymore. He is gone. He is in the underworld. But because he is gone, his influence is suddenly everywhere. He becomes the invisible standard of justice. He becomes the hope of eternal life. His power is distributed across the entire civilization through rituals like mummification, through funerary texts, through annual festivals mourning his death.
I see. So if he had just come back to life, he would have been just Osiris the king for another 20 or 30 years and then died of old age. But because he was broken and relocated to the underworld, he became Osiris the Eternal.
Precisely. His fragmentation wasn't fixed. The cracks are still there. He's literally a mummy. He's missing a piece. But it was stabilized.
Stabilized. That's a really key word. It's not solved, it's stabilized.
Yes. Stabilized through memory and ritual. This is the first model of handling brokenness. When we lose something precious, say you lose a parent, you can't bring them back. You can't fix it. But you can perform the ritual of memory. You tell stories about them, you observe anniversaries, you keep their photo on the mantle, you build a cultural structure around the absence.
So you're doing the work of Isis. You're gathering the pieces of memory and wrapping them up so they don't disappear into chaos.
And in doing that, you maintain a form of connection. You maintain continuity. The whole that was your relationship is now distributed across time, held together by your love and your memory. It's a sad model. In a way, it's melancholic, but it's dignified. It honors the break.
I really like that. It feels incredibly respectful. It says, this terrible thing happened and we are going to build a shrine to it so we never forget. But the source warns us that not all fragmentation is this noble, is it?
No, not at all. There is a much, much darker way to handle the pieces. And to see that, we have to travel from Egypt to Babylon. We have to look at the story of Tiamat.
This one. This one messed me up a little bit when I was reading for this. It's so violent, but in a completely different way than the Osiris myth.
It is. This is from the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic.
Okay.
And it starts with Tiamat. She is the primordial mother goddess. She represents the saltwater ocean. She is the deep. Before the world is formed, there is just Tiamat swirling, chaotic, creative, monstrous unity. She is everything.
She is the everything before there was something, the unformed potential.
Exactly. And from her, the younger gods are born. But these younger gods, who represent noise, activity, structure, they start to annoy her. There is a generational war. It's very dramatic. And eventually, the younger gods elect a champion to face her, a young, ambitious god named Marduk.
Marduk is the classic hero figure, right? The strong man.
He is the storm god. He represents defined order, hierarchy, military prowess. He goes out to face Tiamat. And Tiamat turns into a terrifying dragon, a monster of chaos. She opens her mouth to swallow him, but Marduk, being clever, drives the evil wind into her mouth so she can't close it. He then shoots an arrow down her throat that splits her heart.
Brutal. But he doesn't stop there, does he?
No. This is where it gets really significant. After he kills her, he stands over her massive corpse. And the text says he splits her body like a clamshell. He literally rips her in half.
And this is the moment of creation, right? Which is just wild.
Yes, this is creation. He takes one half of her carcass and he hangs it up to create the sky. He takes the other half and he tramples it down to create the earth. He pokes out her eyes, and they become the sources of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Wait a second. So the world, the sky we look at, the ground we walk on, is literally made of the dead body of the mother goddess.
Correct. Now let's contrast this with Osiris. Osiris was mourned. Isis wept for him. The whole culture mourned him. Tiamat is conquered. Osiris was remembered. Tiamat is used as raw material. Her name, her subjectivity, herself is completely erased. She just becomes the stuff the world is made of.
That feels incredibly exploitative. It's like, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to use your bones to build my house, and I'm never, ever going to mention your name again.
It is the perfect model for what the source calls creation through violent dissociation. This is a model of handling chaos by dominating it, suppressing it, and then pretending it isn't there.
And the source draws a parallel to psychology here that I found really striking. It compares this myth to how the human mind handles extreme trauma.
Yes, it's a very powerful analogy. Imagine a child who goes through something horrific, something too chaotic to process. That's Tiamat. What does the mind do to survive? It splits, it dissociates, it takes the memory of that trauma, the pain, the fear, the chaos, and it pushes it down. It walls it off. It uses the energy of that split to build a functional self.
So you have the daytime self that goes to school, smiles, does the homework. That's the sky, the ordered world Marduk made. And then you have the trauma self, buried deep underground. That's the earth. And the person functions. From the outside, they seem totally fine.
The world works, order is established, Marduk is king, but the entire reality is built on an unacknowledged wound. The chaos hasn't gone away. Tiamat isn't actually gone. She is the very structure of your reality. And because she is suppressed, because she is unspeakable, she haunts the system from the inside.
This sounds like the functioning workaholic who is perfectly put together on the surface but has a total breakdown if you ask them how they're really doing.
Exactly. It creates a rigid, brittle personality, a fortress. Because if you acknowledge the wound, if you acknowledge Tiamat, you feel like the world is going to dissolve back into primordial chaos. So you have to maintain this constant, rigid control. You have to be Marduk, standing on the neck of the dragon every single day of your life.
That sounds absolutely exhausting.
It is exhausting. And it's dangerous. Because eventually, Tiamat wakes up. The repressed always returns. And when it returns in this system, it looks like a monster, not a memory.
So to sum up our two models so far, Osiris is, I'm broken and I'm sad, but I'm going to honor it. And Tiamat is, I'm not broken. Everything is fine. Don't look in the basement.
That's a perfect summary. Osiris is sacred dismemberment. Tiamat is unspeakable fragmentation.
Okay, those are two very ancient, very heavy mythological examples. But the source moves us forward now. We're jumping thousands of years to the 1920s, to a novel that I think a lot of moody teenagers read and then promptly misunderstand, Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse.
This is a crucial shift. We are moving from cosmic myths about gods to the landscape of modern psychology. And the protagonist, Harry Haller, is the archetype of the modern fractured soul. He doesn't have a brother trying to kill him or a storm god splitting him in half. He is doing it to himself.
So introduce Harry to us.
Yeah.
What is his deal? Why is he so miserable?
Harry Haller is a middle-aged intellectual. He's a bit of a recluse. He loves Mozart, he reads Goethe, he values high culture and politeness and order. but he feels like there is a second being living inside him, a wolf.
The Steppenwolf. The wolf of the steppes.
Yes. And this wolf is everything he isn't. It's wild, instinctive, aggressive, lonely, antisocial. It hates dinner parties. It mocks Harry's polite bourgeois life. And Harry is absolutely tormented by this. He thinks he is a battlefield. He thinks, I am two people locked in a death match. If I could just kill the wolf, I'd be a good, respectable citizen. Or I could just kill the man, I'd be a free beast.
He's completely stuck in a binary. It's either A or B, man or wolf.
Right.
And because he can't choose and can't integrate, he's just miserable. I mean, the book opens with him contemplating suicide just to stop the noise in his head.
It's that desperate need for unity. The source calls it a moral insistence on unity. Harry believes that to be a good person, or even just a coherent person, you have to be one solid, consistent thing. He looks at himself, sees two things, and thinks, I am a failure. I am broken.
I think we all do that, don't we? I'm a nice person, so why did I just scream at my partner? Or I'm disciplined, so why did I eat that entire pizza?
Yeah.
We feel like hypocrites because we aren't consistent.
Exactly. We judge our multiplicity. But the breakthrough in Steppenwolf, the moment the source really zooms in on, is when Harry stumbles into the magic theater.
This is the trippy, surreal part of the book. It's very psychedelic.
It is deeply surreal. But the lesson he learns there is profound. He meets a character, a jazz musician named Pablo, who basically laughs at him and says, Harry, your problem isn't that you're two people. It's that you think that's such a small number. You aren't two people. You are 100 people. You are 1,000 people.
The self isn't dual, it's multiple.
It is a kaleidoscope. The source argues that Harry's suffering didn't come from being split. It came from trying to force that beautiful, complex split into a simplistic binary. In the magic theater, he sees a vision where a chess player takes the pieces of his personality, the wolf, the scholar, the child, the cynic, the romantic, and just starts playing with them, moving them around the board.
Playing. That's such a weird word to use for your own soul. It sounds so unserious.
But that's the whole point. It is unserious, and that's the antidote. Contrasting with Osiris's solemn, heavy ritual and Tiamat's violent domination, the Steppenwolf solution is irony and play.
The source mentions Mozart's laughter. What is that? Is Mozart laughing at Harry?
In a way, yes. But it's not mean-spirited. It's cosmic laughter. It's the laughter of the immortals who see that the tragedy of our little human lives is actually a comedy of errors. Mozart appears to Harry and laughs because Harry is taking himself so wildly, tragically seriously. Oh, the woe of my divided soul. And Mozart basically says, lighten up. Just pick up the pieces and build something else with them.
Like Lego. If your Lego castle breaks, you don't have to cry about the castle forever, like in the Osiris model, or pretend it's still a castle like in the Tiamat model. You can just use the bricks to make a spaceship.
Yes, you inhabit the multiplicity. You realize that Harry Holler is just a cast of characters, and you are the director. You can bring the wolf out when you need to be tough. You can bring the scholar out when you need to study. You don't have to kill any of them. You just have to learn how to manage the troupe.
That feels like such a profound relief. It really takes the pressure off finding yourself. You don't have to find oneself. You just have to manage the whole chaotic, wonderful committee.
It represents dissociation becoming conscious of itself. You stop fighting the fragmentation and you start dancing with it.
Okay, so we have our three models now.
Ritual memory. You honor the break with solemnity and respect.
Violent suppression. You deny the break and build a brittle order on top of it.
Playful multiplicity. You accept the break and you play with the pieces. Now, this is where the source does something really, really cool. It takes these three different ideas, which are kind of abstract, and overlays them onto a map. And that map is the tarot.
Specifically, the 22 cards of the major arcana of the tarot. The source calls the tarot a symbolic grammar for post-fragmentation coherence.
Which is a fancy way of saying it's a storyboard for how to put yourself back together after you fall apart. Now, I've dabbled in tarot, mostly for fun at parties, but the way the source breaks this down is really systematic. It treats the cards as a chronological journey of consciousness.
It creates a developmental arc, and it starts, as the deck does, with the Fool.
Card 0, the Fool. Describe him for us, for anyone who hasn't seen the card.
In the standard Rider-Waite deck, the Fool is a young man in colorful, almost jester-like clothes. He is walking toward the edge of a cliff. His head is held high, looking up at the sun, not at his feet. He has a little white dog nipping at his heels, trying to warn him. He looks completely carefree.
He looks like he's about to fall off a cliff and die.
Exactly. This card represents preconscious unity. This is us before the trauma, before the breakup, before the burnout. The Fool is whole, yes, But he is whole because he is ignorant. He doesn't know the cliff is there.
It's the ignorance is bliss phase. It's the Garden of Eden before the snake shows up with the apple.
It is innocent unity. And the source points out that this unity is incredibly fragile because it hasn't been tested. It relies on not looking down. But eventually, inevitably, gravity kicks in. The world happens. And that leads us to the next critical stage in this map, the tower.
Oh, God, the tower. If you get this card in a reading, everyone gasps. It looks absolutely terrifying.
It is the nightmare card. The image is a pitch black sky. There is a tall stone tower on a jagged mountain. A massive bolt of lightning strikes the top, knocking off a golden crown. Fire is erupting from the windows. And two figures, a man and a woman, are falling headfirst out of the building towards the rocks below.
It's total disaster. It's 9/11. It's the collapse of everything you thought was safe and secure.
This is the moment of fragmentation. This is Seth slamming the lid on the coffin. This is Marduk splitting Tiamat in half. This is the moment your partner says, "I don't love you anymore," or the doctor says, "I have bad news."
It feels like the end of the world. But the source has a really interesting take on why the tower falls. It's not just random.
No, it's not. Look at the image again. It's a fortress. It has thick stone walls. It's crowned with gold. It represents the ego. It represents all our attempts to build a life that is safe, rigid, and impenetrable. We build a tower to keep chaos out. But the source says the tower destroys false coherence. The lightning isn't an enemy. It's a reality check.
So the tower falls because it was built on a lie. Or maybe just because it was too rigid to adapt to life.
Because it was too rigid. It didn't allow for change or growth. So the universe, the lightning has to shatter it to let the air and light in. The source argues it is a necessary destruction. You cannot spiral up if you stay locked in the tower.
Yeah.
You have to be thrown out.
Okay. So you're falling, you've hit the ground, the power is burning behind you. What happens next? The source calls this whole next section the middle passage.
This is the messy part. This is where most of us get stuck for a long time. And the source highlights two cards here that define this experience, the star and the moon.
Let's start with the star. It comes right after the tower in the deck. And the energy is so different, it's so quiet.
It is a radical shift. The tower is noise, fire, screaming. The star is complete silence. The image is a woman completely naked, kneeling by a pool of water under a beautiful night sky filled with stars. She is pouring water from two pitchers, one onto the land to make it fertile, and one back into the pool.
Why is she naked? That seems really important.
It represents absolute vulnerability. The tower, her defenses, her clothes, her walls, her crown is gone. She has nothing left to hide behind. This is the moment after the crisis where you are just raw. You are stripped down to the studs. But it's not violent anymore. It's a moment of quiet connection and hope. The source calls this the beginning of healing. Trust is slowly being restored.
It's that feeling after a really good cry. You're exhausted, your face is a mess, but you feel clean, like something has been washed away.
Yes, but you aren't out of the woods yet. Because next comes the moon. And the moon is a very, very weird card.
It's super creepy. It's got a lobster or a crayfish crawling out of a pool, a wolf and a dog howling at the moon, and these two ominous towers in the distance. What is going on there?
It is the landscape of the subconscious. It represents ambiguity and illusion. The star was clear and hopeful. The moon is foggy and confusing. The source connects this directly to Steppenwolf.
Of course. The wolf and the dog.
Exactly. The wild instinct and the domesticated self both howling at the same mysterious light. Dealing with the moon means dealing with your own shadow. It means navigating the parts of yourself that are confusing, non-linear, and maybe a little scary. It's the dark night of the soul. You can't just skip from the tower collapsing to everything is great. You have to trek through the moon landscape.
You have to face the Tiamat energy inside you without trying to kill her. You have to sit and listen to the howling.
Only after navigating that, after the crash, the vulnerability, and the deep confusion, do we reach the final stage of the journey, integration. And the source groups the final cards here, the sun, judgment, and the world.
The sun is the happy ending, right? I mean, it's got a naked baby on a white horse, sunflowers everywhere. It's pure joy.
It is joy, but, and this is so critical, it is not the joy of the fool. The fool's joy was ignorant and fragile. The sun's joy is earned. It is the joy of the survivor. You know, the feeling of waking up after a long, terrible illness and just being profoundly grateful that the sun is shining. It is conscious unity.
And then comes judgment. This card always confuses me. It looks like the rapture from the Bible.
It does. It shows an angel blowing a trumpet and these gray figures rising out of coffins looking up. The source links this explicitly back to Osiris. This is the gathering of the limbs. It is the moment you call all your scattered parts back to you. You call back the part of you that was hurt, the part that was angry, the part that was lost in the woods of the moon. You judge them, not in the sense of condemning them, but in the sense of recognizing them. You are part of me, and you are part of me. Welcome home.
You're emptying the graveyard of your own soul. You're letting the ghosts come back into the light.
Beautifully put. You are remembering yourself, literally putting your members back together. And that leads to the final card of the major arcana, the world.
The world. It's number 21, the end of the line. What's the image?
It shows a figure, often androgynous or female, dancing in the sky. She is holding two wands, like batons. She is surrounded by a large green wreath, a symbol of victory and eternity. And in the four corners, there are the symbols of the four elements.
The source focuses very heavily on the fact that she is dancing, not standing, not sitting, dancing.
Yes. Compare it to the tower. The tower was stone, static, fixed, rigid. The world is motion. This is the ultimate goal. The source calls it dynamic equilibrium.
And explain that phrase, dynamic equilibrium.
It means that true unity isn't about standing still. It's not about being a perfect, unchanging statue. It's about balance and motion. It's like riding a bike. You only stay upright if you keep moving. The figure in the world isn't fixed in the sense that nothing will ever break again. She is fixed in the sense that she can handle the movement. She creates a center that travels with her.
She is the spiral. She's moving, but she's centered within that movement.
Exactly. She is encircled by the wreath, but she is not confined. She has integrated the fool's innocence, the tower's destruction, the star's hope, and the moon's shadow. She holds it all lightly in a dance. That is the spiral return.
Man, that is quite a journey. We've gone from falling off a cliff to dancing in the sky.
And we had to go through hell to get there. It wasn't a shortcut.
So let's try to bring this down to earth. We've thrown a lot of metaphors at you, the listener. We've got mummies, dragon corpses, laughing composers, and a whole deck of tarot cards. What is the practical toolkit here? If I wake up tomorrow and I feel that fragmented feeling, what do I actually do with all this information?
I think we can pull three distinct lessons or tools, one from each of our big myths.
Okay, let's start with Osiris. What is the Osiris tool?
The Osiris tool is ritual. It teaches us that when something is irretrievably lost, we don't have to pretend it isn't. But we also don't have to fix it instantly. We can build a container for the grief. If you are grieving a loss, a person, a job, a past self, don't just try to get over it. Create a ritual. Light a candle every Tuesday. Write a letter to the person or to the version of yourself that is gone. Stabilize the wound. Be the dignified lord of the dead for your own past.
That's huge. It gives you permission to not be over it, but it also gives you something to do besides just wallowing in the pain. It turns grief into a conscious activity.
Correct. Now, the Tiamat lesson is a warning. It is the anti-tool. It's what not to do.
And the warning is, don't be a hero, don't be Marduk.
The warning is, don't be a colonizer of your own psyche. Don't try to build a perfect, shiny life on top of a buried trauma. If you feel like you are exerting a massive amount of energy just to keep things normal, just to keep the dragon's mouth shut, you are in Tiamat territory, and you need to stop. You need to find a way to let the chaos speak safely before it explodes the whole system.
So if you're white-knuckling your way through life, that's a big red flag. Tiamat is waking up in the basement.
Yes. And finally, the Steppenwolf lesson. This is the tool of play.
Which is the hardest one for me, honestly. When I'm stressed and fragmented, the last thing I want to do is play. I want to control and organize.
Which is exactly why you need it. When you feel torn between different parts of yourself, I want to be a good mom, but I also want to run away, or I want to be a disciplined professional, but I also want to just watch Netflix all day. Don't turn it into a moral war. Don't try to kill the wolf. Invite them both to the table. Laugh at the absurdity of being a human who wants contradictory things. Say, okay, the wolf is hungry today. What does the wolf really need? Maybe he needs a long walk in the woods, not an entire pizza. Negotiate. Play the chess game with your own pieces.
Use the magic theater. Treat your personality like a cast of characters and learn how to be a good director rather than trying to crush them all into one leading role.
Precisely. You become the stage, not just one of the actors.
The source has this one line that I highlighted like 3 times. I want to read it because I think it sums up this entire deep dive perfectly. It says, "The wound is not an interruption of the path. It is the path."
That is the thesis statement of the spiral. It's everything. We spend so much energy thinking, I was on my path, and then I got sick, or I got fired, or I got dumped, and that knocked me off the path. Now I have to find my way back on.
Right.
A detour.
And the source says, no. The sickness, the firing, the dumping, that is the path now. The fragmentation is the mechanism of your evolution. You couldn't have become the person you were supposed to be without the tower falling.
That is a really hard pill to swallow when the lightning is actively striking your house.
The hardest. But looking back, from that higher level of the spiral, it's almost always true.
The goal isn't just to survive the break, then. The source uses another big phrase here. It calls it the transfiguration of differentiation. That's the academic mic drop at the end. Transfiguration means a change in form to something more beautiful or elevated, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Differentiation means having many different parts. So it means taking all those broken shards, all those different pieces of yourself, and transfiguring them into a higher form of beauty. It means making the mosaic.
You know, talking through this, it makes that falling apart feeling a little less scary. It doesn't make it pleasant. I still don't want to get dismembered by my brother or struck by lightning, but it makes it feel less like a personal failure.
It removes the shame. I think that's the biggest thing. If fragmentation is a mythic constant, if even the gods get broken, then there is no shame in you feeling broken.
Yeah.
You are just participating in the universal story. You are in the cocoon. You are in the tomb of Osiris. It's not the end. It's just the middle of the spiral.
I think that's a beautiful place to land this. And so I want to leave you, the listener, with a challenge, a kind of deep dive homework assignment, if you will.
Oh, I like homework.
If you are feeling fragmented right now, if you identify with the tower or the moon or poor Harry Howler, I want you to try an experiment. Stop trying to glue the vase back together for just one day. Stop trying to fix it back to how it was, back to normal. Instead, just look at the pieces on the floor. Look at them with that magic theater eye, that playful eye, and ask yourself, what new pattern is trying to emerge here? If I don't have to rebuild the old rigid tower, what could I build instead with these very same pieces?
Maybe a garden, maybe a spaceship, maybe a dance floor.
Exactly. What if the fragmentation isn't an ending, but an invitation? Maybe the music is just starting, and it's time to learn how to dance with all the pieces. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today. This was a heavy one, but I actually feel lighter for it.
It was a pleasure to explore the spiral with you.
We'll see you in the Magic Theater. Catch you next time.